Welcome on to another wonderful episode of the Shutter Saga Podcast. I am your host, Marvin Blue. With me, as always, is a wonderful guest that's going to tell their story, talk about their journey in this wonderful world of photography. But before we do, we got to thank our sponsors for making this possible. We have one of our, of course, our OG sponsors, my Day One boys, over at Cheetah Stands. Cheetah Stands, if you are looking into doing off-camera flash, or if you're going to use thousands of dollars worth of lighting equipment, you want to have the right stands that's going to make sure they're going to protect your gear, they're not going to fall down, and they're going to stand the test of times. And who better than Cheetah Stands to do it with? They've been with me since day one, and I promise you, when you buy a stand, that's the last stand you're probably going to buy for a very, very, very long time. So, wonderful sponsors. The people over at Altex, they give us housing for underwater photography. If you want to be an artist underwater, you want to protect your gear, you want to make sure that it's safe and that you're going to create some amazing images with it, but you need this stuff to protect your cameras, you need this stuff to protect your lens and your lights as well. So Altex provides that. Go to altex.com, learn more about underwater photography, how they can service you, and if you mention the podcast, they will hook you up. And also, we have a new episode sponsor for this show. We have the wonderful, wonderful company of Floricolor. If you are trying to make albums and you want to stand out head and shoulders above your competition, and you want to create timepiece albums for your clients that are going to tell their story, that are going to wow them, whether it's weddings, seniors, boudoir, you name it. If you want to put it in a book, Floricolor is the way to go. They have so many different options that are just going to, blow your mind. But if you go to floricolor.com, check out what they have to offer, mention the podcast, and they will be sure to take care of you. Okay. So with that being said, thank you so much for our wonderful sponsors. And a couple of ways to continue to support the show is to like, subscribe, and follow the show. Share it with a friend. Go on your podcast platforms and leave those 5-star reviews so that way we can keep the lights on and keep this show going. My guest this week, I could say so many things about her, but all I can say is she is one of the most amazing people that I know, behind the camera, in front of the camera, a brand ambassador. She wears so many hats, just, a wonderful, wonderful human being. I'm proud to call her a friend. I'm proud to call her a colleague. But we have Marietta Hardwick on the line with us today. Marietta, how are we doing today?
Pretty good. Excited.
Yeah, I know. It feels like forever that we got to talk in person. And, of course, like the last time we hung out was your birthday, and you got to be the victim of the drunken shenanigans that is this photography industry.
That was an adventure for sure.
I think everybody left you drunken birthday videos for your Facebook page, which was hilarious.
I don't think I've ever had that many videos of me doing that. I think I haven't drunk since then.
Well, I think we did enough drinking for the last us through the summer and fall. So definitely it was quite the experience.
Drinks in my face. It was insane. It was like 2 a.m. I was like,
you should have never said it was your birthday. And see, I got lucky because my birthday was literally the week before the Boca Summit. So I literally missed all. Everybody's like, oh, if you were here during your birthday, we would have. I was like, I know. And I got lucky.
It was crazy. Even the fact that Andre just mentioned it in front of the entire Boca community that was there. It was very special. They absolutely made my day. So yeah.
And it was definitely, it was a fun, absolutely. It was a fun experience. And it was one of those rare times where I'm with the photography industry, but I really just felt that day. It was like I was around family, and it was just a big family event to me. So I was definitely proud of Andre, and it being his first conference. It was like, dude, it was awesome. And I would say the experience alone, the connections I made that week was totally worth it. And then again, we got to finally really connect on a business level and just on a creative level. So that week was awesome for me, and then also I got to find out about Floricolor.
Yes, that's true. It was so very, very amazing just to be there and support Andre with his community. I'd been doing it. Andre and I tend to sit down before every conference and have either breakfast or lunch. If we arrive late, we tend to do dinner. He's one of the first people I ever met in the industry when I started doing these jobs. And he was always very supportive. It didn't matter. It was always like friendship. It didn't feel like it was absolutely anything. And he's one of the few people that I could tell you that it's very much community over competition, very much there to help the community improve at all times. And I remember when he had the idea of this, he was like, I'm thinking about a conference and this and that and the other. And I was like, yeah, do it. Make it happen. And then all of a sudden he was making it happen. And luckily I was with Floricolor, and Floricolor wanted to really support Andre because he's been so amazing with them as well. And I felt so proud of him at that moment. It's one of the best organized conventions that I've ever seen. And if I were a vendor, I would really jump at the opportunity to be there next year for sure.
Awesome, for sure. I mean, again, it speaks for itself. But and I would definitely want to hit on your role with Flory Color and how you got there. But I want to start with obviously the nitty gritty photography. You know, you've done it for quite some time now. You are listed as a boudoir photographer, but obviously you've shot other genres. But when did you pick up the camera, and when was it that it all came together for you?
Have had a love of photography ever since I am a child. My first camera was a little Kodak 110. It was like this. Those skinny cameras with the
Hmm.
light on it that you clicked and it blinded you. And that's the first camera I had. And I think I was 6 or 7. And I took the first pictures of my mom and my uncles and everything else. And I was just sold on it. But I was really poor. So, my mom, we were working class. We lived in Northeast Philly from the time I was 5 to the time I was 10. I was originally born in Puerto Rico, but, the diaspora being what it is, we left for a better life. And for a time we had it. But after a while, my mom got sick and we had to go back to Puerto Rico. Long story short, I always had that dream of being like a National Geographic photographer. It was like the one membership that I allowed myself. I think I paid for it myself out of my first job when I was 14, and I had it for years. And I had Vogue, so fashion was always at the forefront, fashion photography. So I had so much inspiration that I was like, oh yeah. But then life gets in the way and my mom got a little bit sicker. So I decided to go into business. So I went into business marketing and I didn't find myself kind of disciplined enough for college. I got into college at 16 and I was shortly 17, but it still didn't work. So I joined the Marine Corps after 3 years of them haggling me with recruiters because they convinced me, hey, like you could do it. And I couldn't do it because I broke my pelvic bone in 4 after a while.
Ooh.
Freak accident, and they discharged me medically. But then I went back to college and I just never looked back. It was business, et cetera, et cetera. And after my mom passed away back in 2011, as with everything, when you're looking back at the things that you could have done and the things that, she would have supported you as no matter what, it just really fell into perspective for me. I was like, I want to be a photographer. The recession was going on and I was in finance and I was just like, I just got to do something else. This is going to kill me. And I'm not doing what's making me happy. So I bought my first camera and lo and behold, it was a compact sensor, crop sensor camera, like think it was a Canon. It was like, okay, work with what you've got, kind of sort of kit lens. Felt like I wanted to be like a pro. And I got into it and I photographed everything I possibly could. At the beginning, I photographed it all for free because I didn't think, hey, like I'm not going to charge the $100 because no, I've got to get good at it. So after a while, the practicing of knowing what I wanted to do, charged and started charging, and I never looked back.
Nice. So when did you have? I guess when did boudoir come into play as far as like your genre of choice and everything?
A year and a half in.
Okay.
I fell into the AIBP boudoir photography group back then. It was pretty big. It was one of the few organizations that was actually looking into boudoir education. We were just coming into being organized. Kate, Sean, Aaron, and I think there was somebody from Puerto Rico were kind of like the founding members of it. It was just growing. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. So I put out a model call and I was actually stunned and surprised that such a pretty model could have self-esteem issues, could have this, could have that, so much going on in their lives. And it was so cathartic for the model herself. And I said to myself, if a model who feels like this I could make her feel that much better after the session, imagine how I could make, everyday women feel. And it was just like, I've got to get more educated in this. I've got to get good at this. It's got to be worth it. And I just didn't look back. I just fell into it. 3 or 4 models later, I was just like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. And I just started my pricing models. AIBP definitely helped with a lot of that. It was definitely a very helpful group to get it started. But on or about like middle of 2013, I would say middle to late 2013, I was like, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do.
Do you feel like there, because obviously, like I always say, there's errors in our industry, and you starting so early in 2013. When do you think was your aha moment, or I guess your breakout, where you started
I never,
separating yourself from like your counterparts?
I, I have a very distinct style. I like black and whites and everything else. I don't think that I want to reinvent the wheel. Do I stand out? Nowadays, you could consider it classic elegance and definitely a little bit of dark and moody as far as my work goes. And I love my style. But it's not necessarily like this super unique style. It's definitely a very celebratory style with a lot of classic lines. I'm not a very overt person when it comes to that. So if that's something that you're looking for, then, I like to play a lot with light. I was initially self taught, but then I found that I wanted to have a little bit of a higher education level. So I went to school for photography and decided to evolve at that. So I do combine natural light with artificial light and everything else. But I think the one thing that I specialize in is giving you ultimate privacy. I don't need the accolades. I don't need anything else. I need that you as a client be happy with the product that I give you, that you consider it pure artwork, okay? And that that from beginning to end, from inception to like everything else, it will be private for you because the clients that I do have do most of the time require that. It's just the type of client that falls on my lap.
Okay. What have you? What would you consider? I guess your challenges over these years, especially in the boudoir space, maintaining your creativity, whether it's a business, whatever. What do you think your biggest challenges have been?
Oh my gosh, I've had a lot in life happen to me. So, I mean, there's just periods where I couldn't work because, like I said, I took care of my ailing parents before they passed away. And that takes a chunk. You're on and off. You think that you're not good enough. Definitely imposter syndrome at one point in time. And in this industry, when I started, I think that there was a stigma over boudoir photography or on boudoir photography that you felt like you couldn't really learn from the elite photographers because they didn't consider boudoir photography anywhere near artistic photography. They just thought it was sleazy or they thought it was quasi porn or softcore or something else, and you didn't have the supposed skill set. So you were kind of limited in the photographers who would open up their arms and give you a degree of mentorship and open up their knowledge base without stonewalling or just, trying to keep it all for themselves, if that makes sense. That was a problem for me at the beginning. It's not a problem for me now, but I can imagine that it's still something that happens with boudoir photographers.
What's been your favorite part about being a boudoir photographer?
Gosh, I stopped shooting this last year because of the position that I'm in right now. But the favorite part of the boudoir photography, just the posing in general for me. Their reactions to the poses that you do, the elegance, that one finalized product, that reveal to me. That's my favorite. When you reveal it, that's like, oh my gosh, just some of them have been in tears when they've seen their work and when they can't choose. I don't turn in 100 images. I don't turn in hardly even 80 images. I turn in between 61 and 65 images. And I don't do more than that. I have a very specific set of poses. Although I will give a jump to Flory Colors guide from Kate Scaglione for boudoir poses because she's doing really awesome. I'm gonna pitch that if you need assistance on that. But I have a specific set of poses that I do, and I've just been doing it for quite some time. That they choose that as many images, and when they see themselves in print, I think I love that.
Nice. So you're like me, you're a big advocate of getting it printed, getting it put into a book. What I just have so many transitional questions now from what you just said. You stumped me on my own show.
Ask away. I'm here.
No, so I mean, with the growth of like, photography, the growth of our industry as a whole, like even, when you shoot multiple genres, when you're, I guess now, because it's so much access to excess, how do you fight the challenge of keeping boudoir the art that it is and not getting mixed up with the social this I get what's the word I'm looking for, the social pieces of what they consider boudoir, the inappropriateness, the to put it, what's the difference, where do you think separates us as boudoir photographers versus someone that's got a camera doing the OnlyFans, or just taking away the sleaziness and keeping it the professional, the art itself? Like how do you think it's what helps differentiate us as artists versus softcore porn?
To our artists that do OnlyFans accounts and help, models OnlyFans. And it's really artistic, okay? Don't take me wrong. I don't judge people. I don't think I ever have, and that's everybody's bread and butter, right? But I I think that the diversification of the boudoir industry into sub niches works very well as long as you identify that you are a sub niche. Like, let's say, for example, if you're erotica, that's a completely different niche. That's, it's a sub niche of boudoir, I would say, but it's a very detailed and very specific and should have very standard and specified rules for it. And I think that a lot of what's getting out there, that information to new boudoir photographers, can be a little bit, I wouldn't call it erroneous, but I would say just a little different, right? The education space, I would recommend kind of getting advice from very established figures that know their stuff and are definitely dedicated to the craft versus somebody who's just there to just sell you on something that they think will just get you into the six-figure club, which is something that I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, maybe, but it's definitely not the love of the art that you want or that I strive for. I mean, there's this balance between the love of the art and kind of just being out there to be out there. I don't need to be the exhibitionist. As you see me at shows, I'm not necessarily one of those people that'll be like in your face. At least not with my tiny self.
No, I mean, when we hang out, just I was asking, I said, is Mary? I would just say, is Mary an introvert? Because I was like, it's your birthday, and I was like, oh, I think because I was making sure we didn't force you to go out with us when we planned that shenanigan night of whatever. And again, we didn't know it was your birthday either, so I was like, oh, it's her birthday, she's got to go out. And they're like, I don't think she wants to go out, and I'm just like, okay, And I thought you were an introvert, and I was like, well, shoot, that's awesome. She's an introvert. She's hanging out with us.
No, when I'm home, I like my private space. As you can see, my social media is non-existent for a reason, but I've promised to change that. So I've promised to put myself out there more, and that's why you see me here. I'm usually a very private person when I'm home, but when I'm at these shows, I think that everybody deserves the attention that I could possibly give them. They also deserve the education of why. And I love people's stories. I love getting to know people. It's one of the reasons why I love being at shows because there's so much talent in the photography industry and I want to support it all. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm not an introvert when I'm there. But when I'm at home, I'm usually like private in my loungewear most of the time.
I'm right there with you. Like, I mean, when I'm at the shows, like, I believe it, I tell everybody I'm labeled, or I'm viewed as an extrovert. I can't even talk today. An extrovert because I'm so outgoing and everything. But I tell people, honestly, I want to chill and be alone. And sometimes I always say I have a social meter, and once it's depleted, I have to reset it. Like, I have to do a hard reset, get it back up so I can get through it. But I mean, obviously, I've learned over time that sometimes I may not feel like doing something, but even at the level that I'm at, there's somebody that might have relied on what I was giving or in that moment, and me being present and me being giving in that moment help the next person out, in the positive way. And I always, want to remind myself that that part's important because when I first started, it wasn't like that. It wasn't the access to a lot of the big names. And, there was so many barriers between you and your quote unquote heroes or your mentors. So I always say, like, yeah, I'm at the level I'm at, but there's a lot of people that I'm ahead of and they're trying to get to where I'm at today. And I'm chasing that next goal and they're trying to chase to where I'm at today. Why don't I reach out tell them, hey, this is how I got here, and share that story or share that little bit of information. So I'm
Well,
right there with you.
my role has changed within the industry a lot through the years. I'm very fortunate that different companies gave me the platform to actually be a representative for their companies and vouch for the potential of whatever products and or services and or software they were promoting. And I I've noticed that being kind within this industry is something that isn't necessarily organic for some of the very stellar photographers, but it's not because they don't want to be. Like, because I know a lot of them. I just also know that it's hard to live that life and have people think they know you and think they know everything of you, because you have to have had to put yourself, present and center. And I even felt that myself, because I started putting myself out there a little more. And then all of a sudden somebody mentioned my child and, how cute they were or how this and that. And I knew this person from no one. So it kind of can get a little bit invasive for those photographers. So I identify with them, but I have chosen to be kinder, at least in person. Because it's like when I started, yeah, no. Like, no, there was nobody that was ever kind. I hope
Yeah.
there was like a little grain of kindness that I brought to the industry with my friends and just networking.
No, I'm right. Like, I just remember when I first started, I used to always say, well, this is an industry where you definitely don't want to meet your heroes, because you see them on this pedestal, you see them on the creative lives, I'm aging myself again, or the YouTube channels and whatnot, or you see them at that conference, you're like, oh my gosh, and then you see them, meet them in person or whatever, and you're like, no, I'm not impressed. Or you're like, oh wow, they're really a dick, or wow, she really is a full of herself, and you're just like, it is what it is. And but then you meet those people that are like, wow, this person's like super cool. And then it's like you like, why are the people going after the really cool people, and like, why are the people that are assholes still around? You're trying to figure that out, but then you're like, I got to make a name for myself, and I've got to learn the industry and learn how to navigate through it. So it's so many lessons that you have to learn right away. And I mean, fortunate nowadays, it's easy to learn those lessons and not have to learn them the hard way, versus back then it's like, you didn't know if you lined yourself with the wrong person, that was the mark of death.
I think that what has happened, and I've had this conversation with people while we've been sitting down at these shows and stuff, is that the industry has recognized that it is demographically diversifying itself. When I started, I can tell you right now that I could count with the palms of my hand how many Puerto Rican photographers I could find. Okay. And I mean, as you know, I'm light skinned Puerto Rican, but I have said that I am half black and half white Puerto Rican. I'm just like the lighter skin of my family spectrum. So, being from the Caribbean, being a photographer, being a female at that time, and just meeting these bigger photographers, there was none of that. There were no real idols for us people of color, or people that identify as people of color, to just emulate. There weren't these heroes. All of our heroes were old timer, super big in the industry, et cetera, et cetera. These past, I would say, 8 years, and especially after COVID, I would say you could find a lot of diversity. There was
Mhm.
a lot of opportunity for people to get cameras in their hands and to realize their dream of being a photographer, of going to these conferences, of getting the education that they need. Because one thing is that you grab a camera, and then all of a sudden is like, are you really willing to put in the hard work that it takes to get it done? And there's a lot more of that now than there was back when I started.
During that time, what do you think contributed to you overcoming that adversity?
Well, I kind of mesh along, I truck along, I work, and like I said, my business model is a little bit different than other people's business models. So I don't need like the accolades. I don't necessarily participate in all of the other stuff, and I've never thought myself too big for my britches. So it's kind of like I've always had very nice people who have been more than established in the industry for a long time, that have been willing to give me tips and tricks and just help me out, because number one, they know I'm never going to steal their education platform, and I'm not going to go in and write a manual, like with the next 20 poses that I stole, like I'm not really a stealer. I'm not really anything else. And I've been as kind as I possibly can. And they kind of didn't care. They were just like, I know she's just a nice human. Let me help her out. She's just asking questions. She's not here with like an underlying intention. And they kind of figured that out pretty quick.
Nice.
So
I feel like the theme of this episode is like, if you just be nice, you can go so far. And I know it sounds crazy. It's like the most simplest thing ever. Is like, people come in, they want to be edgy, and they want to be controversial. It's like, dude, the industry's, I always say the industry's so big, even in Texas, with the weddings this year. Like I told you about, there's so many weddings going around. Like I literally don't have time to know who's doing what and who did what and what this story is, what venue did what. I'm literally thinking about the next wedding and the next wedding. And it's like, let me survive this season. And then I can look back and go, oh, wow, this place is scorched earth right now.
it's nice because like if you see me on the trade show floor and I am creating a booth or I am putting on a booth and I am a completely very focused, driven, kind of very different person. I like, yeah, some of the people that are watching this will probably attest to that if they're watching it. But I am also very genuine. Like, you're not really going to find that I'm going to be like this persona right here in front of you, and then in back of you, I'm going to be a completely different person. And just, this isn't someone else entirely. I don't have to do that. There's no need for that. So I've always had genuine, real conversations. And if I have interest in you, like if I am carrying on a conversation and I'm sitting with you, I'm interested in you genuinely and openly and unabashedly about what makes you tick as a photographer or as a human, your backstory, all those kind of things that you seldom find nowadays because everybody's out with an agenda. Like the one thing I hate is if you're trying to sell me stuff to my face. It's like, like I'm here at dinner. Let's not talk business. Let's just share a moment with each other. If I need to connect you with someone and I know someone that you need to be connected to along the way for business, I'll do that. I'll hook you up. But again, it's about being genuine with the community and not just being fake. Like I can't do the fake thing. If that makes me nice, that's kind of like maybe what some people know me as.
No, I like the term you use, genuine. That's actually better than what I use. Nice almost sounds almost in a way takes away from your authenticity. If I can be honest with it, like I think I use the term nice, and now that we've clarified it, I don't think that gives you did you justice. To be honest with you, I like genuine better. And
Yeah.
and I can attest to that because, like I said, the conversations that we kept having in Atlanta, whether it was business related or just family related. I mean, I was coming off of my daughter graduating from the boot camp, and my other one having her first day of school, and how I was upset that I missed taking her to school on the first day because I was in Atlanta. I was getting ready to fly back just to do that, and then fly back to Atlanta. And everybody was like, "Don't do it. You're going to be tired." And
so many moments in my kids' lives that I just either haven't celebrated with them or end up celebrating later. So I definitely knew where you were coming from. I missed my kids' day of school too. So.
But I always say this is the first time I've ever missed their first day of school, and I did not know how to And again, even I still talk about it today because it just eats at me because I'm like, dude, there's so many things that are going on this. I say I could, it's like there's no conference ever going to be more important than those moments because I'm not going to get that back. But there's always going to be another conference, or there's always going to be another conversation at a trade show, or there's always going to be another luncheon that I'm going to get to go to.
Yeah, it's funny because it used to eat at me a lot more because I didn't know how my children truly felt.
Mm-hmm.
You, as a photographer, or like, for example, me now, a vendor rep, just ask your kids the questions because I couldn't remember the conversation right now, but my daughter was coming home from school and she was a high schooler, okay? And she was like, I had a meeting with my social worker, and I'm like, how'd that go? I had just come from a conference. And she said, good. I mentioned that you were such a very talented photographer, Mom, and how beautiful you are and how amazing you are and how much of a boss babe you are. And I'm like, what? Nothing else in the world matters. Nobody else's opinion matters but that of your family, your children. Like, those are the most weight that carries. And I was like, my daughter thinks that of me. And I was like, do you think I'm a talented photographer? She's like, hell yeah, Mom, your work is fantastic. And I was like, I never thought that she even thought that I was a good photographer. Like, I was like, oh, okay, wow. She's like, it's amazing, Mom. You should just show it more. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. So it's just one of those things. And I asked that of my other children, and they're like, yeah, Mom, you're really good. You just have to shoot more now.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, okay.
I got that similar experience. It was my oldest when we went to Las Vegas for WPPI, and it was the first time she actually got to go to like a legit photo shoot with me and everything, and not just like, hey, I'm going to be doing this engagement. You go get some food while I do this, and I'll come get you or whatever. She actually like to experience top to bottom like what we go through and everything. And I remember I posted a picture and she put it, and she never comments on any of my stuff or whatever, And she just started having her social media, and then she just put, I was there and you ate. And I was like, is that a good thing? And then she was putting like 4 + 4, you equals 8. And I was like, okay, I guess in their language, that was a good thing. And so it was like to get that, validation from my daughter is like, that made it all worth it.
One too. And I'm like, I'm cooked, you ate.
Yes.
That whole lingo thing.
I'm like, is this good or bad?
I gotta ask too. So I've gotta ask too.
I'm like, can you just say good job, Dad? Because I'm like so confused.
That's not.
I was like, oh, you made me feel, oh, thank you, darling. But the cool thing is now, like because she's starting college in January, she's telling me like, whenever you're going out of town for something or whatever, can I go with you again? Because she has so much fun in Vegas and she wants to see, and then she got to go do a couple other things with me as well. And I'm like, well, if I'm ever doing this conference here or there, she's like, yeah, I'll fly out there. I'm like, now I'm at that age where now my daughter can fly out to this city, get to experience the city, and I get to see her. And, just like, to me, like that was one of the best parts of the job is getting to travel and get to see new areas and new sceneries and stuff. I love it.
I might take my 11-year-old for content creation. I'll tell you that much. Like
they're probably better at it than we are.
He is so much better at it than I am. Like, let's fantasize about it. Let's be.
Oh yeah.
I am like a dinosaur by comparison.
Oh, that's what Jaden. She's now like, anytime I can take her with me, I'm like, hey, capture. So like, she's got her, her camera now. I got her a Canon for her birthday, and she's creating content. And then what's funny is my youngest will grab her camera and do all this content creation and make little videos. I'm like, you are 7. How are you pulling this off?
Yeah. Oh no. Yes. Between the little one having scheduled like project meetings during COVID, I couldn't get enough of that. I was like, oh my God, he would schedule like Zoom calls and this, that, and the other. And he was in kindergarten. I was like, ooh, it's only gotten worse. Like I don't dare give him my Osmo pocket because I was like, I'm gonna feel really old once he like gets the hang of it.
And they'll probably get the hang of it like in 5 minutes. I'm like, okay. And then next thing you know, they've got apps and preset settings in there. And I'm like, how did you do all that? Like,
definitely.
She grabs the hold of my phone or the iPad, and she looks like, Tony Stark on Iron Man. Just it's like, come on, dude.
I know, and it's only going to get worse for me, but I'm satisfied.
Like, meanwhile, I'm just trying to maintain daily posts on Instagram, and this girl could like literally create new algorithms.
I'm trying to coordinate those with our marketing head here. What are you talking about?
Nice. So let's transition. Now being a brand ambassador, working for Florida Color, like how did you transition into those positions? I mean, because that's honestly like a lot of new photographers, they love to ask those type of questions. Like,
yeah, they're vice president of growth.
No, yeah, you work for them, but I mean like other companies, like even some of the other stuff. Yeah.
But as brand ambassadors, and I know that this is hard because a lot of people that I have met, they're like really craving that brand ambassadorship and really wanting to do that. And sometimes the companies have been unsuccessful at their programs either before or don't have something as established as the brand ambassador believes or could believe, or they've gone away from it. So a lot of the different companies, they're transitioning and they're evolving. So there's a lot of different steps. Usually a company will look for you versus you look for a company. But in most instances, there could be an open call for, hey, if you want to become a brand ambassador, send us this information. We're definitely open for that. Our program, it definitely is established. There's a certain amount of people that we could have. There's a certain amount of privileges that we could give you and or deliverables that we want from you. Are you willing to do what it takes to become an ambassador for them? And it takes hard work. Also, it depends. Like, for example, it's one of those things. Like if you're mentioned at shows, or if you're in somebody's purview, or if you're looked at, a certain way that isn't necessarily favorable, that goes around very quickly in vendor circles. So you also want to be careful to be a little bit more diplomatic and a little bit, like professional during these trade shows that you go to, et cetera, et cetera. How did I fall on it? It was sheer luck. All right. I had changed from one lab company to another lab company, and I can mention them because I'm still very good friends with them, UAF Photo Lab. And if you don't go with Floricolor for an album, hey, more power to them. But I still stand by Floricolor 100%. I had changed from that company to UAF, and I wanted to meet the team, right? It was their first time at a show, at a big show, and my husband told me, go to WPPI. This is your chance to go to WPPI, network, get to meet other photographers. Don't live under a rock. And I was like, because I had done workshops and other things like that, but I hadn't really gone to a huge trade show. And I was like, you know what? He's right. And I went to a trade show by myself. I didn't have any friends, like didn't know many people. I was alone with my little bag.
What year was that?
God, I can't remember. It was before COVID. It was before COVID. So it was either that 2021 before COVID hit, or it was 2019. I can't really remember. It's like a blur to me now. It seems like a lifetime ago, but it was also very recent for me. And then all of a sudden I met the team at UAF, and we kind of hit it off. Well, Lord knows that I didn't have a lot of people to hang out with because I wasn't really well known in the industry. And all the big heads were still big heading. They had their cliques, they had, their people, and I wasn't in a clique. I'm just not cliquey. And I said to myself, okay, let me hang with them, et cetera, et cetera. And unfortunately, the person that was taking care of their trade show got sick. And sick. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't organize it and everything else. And they were having a little bit of a difficulty because it was their first big trade show. They hadn't really done anything, and they didn't. And they asked me, hey, do you know how to do this? And I was like, I've organized many events. So yeah, I could do this. I could help you with it. So I ended up helping them with the trade show floor, with putting it up, with, setting and curating what albums would look good with what. And then I left for home, after WPPI was done. I didn't help them on the booth, but, left a couple of muffins there, kind of know how hungry people get. And just kept on the relationship and, saying hi and whatever. And when their trade show person left, got a call, and I was like, we thought about you. You do it. And it was in the midst of COVID. And I think it was Shutterfest that was having a virtual trade show on that. And they were like, could you do a virtual trade show, design it and man it? And I was like, well, yeah. What have I got to do? It's COVID, I can't, I'm not seeing nobody. So yeah, sure, I could do that. So I designed the booth for Shutterfest, and I answered all the questions and took care of it, manned it. And then they asked me to do it full time in person, and asked me if I could redesign and just revamp it all. And like I said, it fell on my lap. And I think the first in-person show was after COVID. So it was kind of like one of those things where you just were trying to ramp up. And the first people that were looking at me during these shows, these big shows, were looking at me because now I know that they all know each other, right? Mm-hmm. And they're looking at me like, who's this little pipsqueak who's not even wearing boots, trying to put up a booth? And I was just like, I went ahead and I introduced myself to everybody, even other labs, and it's history from there, because I didn't know what they knew. I could definitely ask them questions. Is there something that I need to know? Where am I going to be led to? And I was always friendly and always asked questions to people, and they ended up knowing me as that girl that'll be there for them too.
It's funny you said you left muffins, and then I think about Atlanta, how y'all came with muffins. It was like you came in, I think I ordered muffins or whatever during the booth that day, and I was like, I think it was me. I want to say it was Jen, maybe Margot. It was a few more people, but we were just chowing down on muffins, and I wasn't even a part of you want one. I was like, make sure everybody gets theirs, then I'll get whatever's left over. But
You get so hungry.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Usually I have protein bars, I
Hmm.
have water bottles, I have a lot of things behind the booth. So if you ever need anything and you're like starving, come by because I usually have it. But that was like one show that I had very little of. And I don't know why. And I was like, no.
It just reminds me of like when God, I can't remember, I forget what year it was, but it was just a classic year at Shutterfest where I one of the roommates he was just like, man, he was like, I cook a lot of my food or whatever. So if you room with me, I'm gonna cook a lot. He was like, he brings in like his iron flat. He'll go buy like an iron flat skillet from Walmart, and then he was just like, I'll take it back at the end of it, whatever, right? And I remember he had it there. He got there the day before I did because he usually comes in like that Friday before, so he was already there.
Was this?
This was the old room. He doesn't go. He's like retired since then, but like
Ning Wong does like a
no, not yeah. I know Ning always brings a microwave and stuff, but it was the God, I can't, it was post COVID, so I want to say this is 2021, maybe the 2022 year. But literally, I was he had it. I said, hey, you're bringing it. He's like, yeah, cool. And I went and got pancake mix, and I just remember like word got out that I was making pancakes, and next thing you know, people were like banging on our door. It was the first year I ever had people banging on my door, like, "Hey, bro, are you making pancakes?" And I'm just like, "I can now." Like, we got class in like 30, hey, how many pancakes can you pump out in the next 40 minutes? We'll buy. And people were showing up with box of pancake mix, and I'm like mixing it and I'm like, bring some syrup and pancake mix. I'll make some more. And it turned into this big because people were like, I don't want to get I don't want to get the pancakes from the restaurant if you're gonna make some because the restaurant. I'm like, I'll make some, and it turned into like an hour-long thing of making pancakes, and like word got out that I was making pancakes, and I was just like, and people were like, next, hey, tomorrow, if we bring blueberries and chocolate chips, can you do that? I'm like, am I going to be the pancake guy?
That's something I really love about Shutterfest. Shutterfest is
Mm-hmm.
one of those like enclosed trade shows where you definitely have the opportunity to make some really long lasting and rewarding friendships and just network. And it's kind of like all your brand of crazy. Like I feel it's like
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
always find
Like
brand of people.
having the whiskey meetups and stuff like that we did. It's like, how did that start? How did that come about? It's like, we all just wanted to drink. And that was like the main goal was like, hey, let's just all drink, And we usually did it the day like, and then it got combined with another event where like Meat Fest where they go out to the Brazilian steakhouse and then and then afterwards we're gonna go meet up with Marvin and the guys and drink free alcohol and they're like, and then it turned into like now everyone like is bringing their own bottle and we're all sharing stories and it's all this is yeah, it was and then I walk around and it's rumored that I walk around with a backpack full of the little shooters and stuff. It was allegedly.
Supposedly.
Even though they got pictures of me like passing them out to people, like, oh god, I'm gonna get in trouble.
I don't want to tell you how many pictures I have of Shutterfest and much less of Portrait Master.
Yes,
Yes,
it's like I'm trying to keep it cool,
picture here, but yes, that's not the party animal that you normally.
No, it's just but again, it opens up those doors. It's just like people remember those things, like whether it's because I always say if you leave, even if it's just something as simple as just like handing somebody a drink, it's a good impression. People remember that, and I'd rather you remember for the good that I do than the one time I had a bad day in front of people. So it's like
I would have it hard pressed to have a bad day in front of people, although like I'll be cross-eyed after like a couple like whatever's, but yes, no, not a bad day.
I'll cry in private when no one's looking, but
yeah, or I'll decompress when I get to my room, which
exactly.
is whenever that takes me.
Take that shot and be like, fuck.
What time is it? Like, we've been talking for forever. All right.
I know. Yeah. All right. So
questions.
A couple more questions. So, okay, we talked about longevity. We talked about, what's keeping you creative. Like, so if new photographers came in today and you went to give them and they wanted 3 tips on like just hitting the ground, hit the ground running hard. What are your 3 tips to success right now?
Invest in education. That's my biggest tip. Education at any level. I would recommend the knowledge of lighting. Okay, and I have a friend, and I know that you can like erase whatever I state, but my friend Dallas Logan has a book that is fantastic on lighting and e-lighting and learning e-lighting at every level. And there are other artists that are amazing at off-camera flash, etc., etc. Learn from them, obviously. Learn from as many people as you can. Be humble. All right. I know that it sounds like that, but it's kind of like a segue into it. Learn about business. Educate yourself on correct business strategies and the tools that will make you a more effective photographer, because you have the opportunity to invest in things that will aid your workflow properly and that will make you real money, okay? But will also help you stay creative. You want to stay creative. You want to have that opportunity to, hey, if tomorrow push comes to shove, right? I have to like redo my studio. Like I said, I want to have that creativity in my head, my mindset, et cetera, et cetera. I know which sets are going to work for what lighting I'm going to need for that, et cetera, because I've educated myself on the subject enough to be okay with it. But also, like, just go in with an open mindset. That's my third one. Just go in with an open mindset. Not everything's going to be idealistic at the beginning, but things are changing.
Last question. I promise it's the last one. We'll get you out here. Who were your early influences and who are your present influences?
Oh my gosh. That's hard when you have so many friends in the industry. You were asking me who I want to be influenced.
Yes, let's break some hearts. Let's find out who's not on the list.
No, I can't do that. I can't do that. There are so, like I said, if and when I start shooting again, because it would be disingenuous of me to say that I have inspirational people right now. I have people whose work I adore. And if I'm ready for it, I'm like this. Oh my gosh, I want to have something like what this person taught at this show, or I got a glimpse to see their talent there. And I think that they're darn right insanely amazing and talented people. But there's too many of those.
Okay. I'll let you Switzerland on that one. We'll make that again. Who's Marietta's favorites?
I got married. No, don't do that to me. Well, I've got my favorite ambassadors. How about no? I've got my ambassadors for Floricolor. So
there you go.
I'll promote them.
Who are your future ambassadors for Floricolor?
Well, if you're looking for ambassadorship with Floricolor, hit me up, DM me on Instagram, show me your socials, show me what your workshops are going to be, what you're striving for, et cetera, and how I can be of help. Now, you better be selling in person because you got to be a current in-person salesperson. I don't want it out of the blue. It just doesn't seem very genuine now, does it?
Now I'm going to turn around and edit this part out so no one knows how to get that. Now I'm kidding. I'm going to let everyone get that. I do not gatekeep. If I always say, if someone beats me out for something, then you know what, they earned it because I don't make it easy,
I'm a selective person, but I am a very fair person. So yes, Lord knows I give everybody a shot, and I have been on a lot of calls. So don't worry, I am actively seeking. So.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. Well, hey, look, I know we went way over than we expected to, but thank you so much for your time today, Marietta.
Anytime that you need it, like I said. And if anybody's looking for advice on in-person sales or album companies or anything else like that, and there's anything I could do to help at any time, I'm right here. And you could see me at any shows, what booth I'll be at these next ones.
Nice. What shows are you going to be at in the upcoming future?
WPPI for certain. Okay. And I still have a conference call with my marketing person to solidify what it all looks like for 2025. Be on the lookout. I'm sure that at the smaller conferences and everything else, they'll be looking at us at all.
Will you be at Imaging or Shutterfest this year?
We will not have a presence at Imaging as far as I know this year. I mean, I will likely be attending. So if you want to hang out with me.
Yes, you're coming to my home state, my home city. If I don't show up and take you out to get some of the finest Texas barbecue, then I'm not a good friend. So yes, I will be there for that.
So I will likely be there. So hit me up if you want to hang at a non-official capacity. And for WPPI, definitely a very official capacity. And all other shows are not up in the air. It's just that they haven't been cemented yet. So I don't dare say, but through the year, kind of the same ones that we've attended before. And maybe exploring other ones that we want to actually attract.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, where can everybody find you on the social media side of things?
You can find me on Instagram at Floricolor, and be on the lookout. I am going to be doing more lives in regards to certain things because I've noticed that there is an echo or a vacuum for education for in-person sales. But you can also find me on my personal one at Etta Bites Back, which is where I do like my food, little recipes, all other things. And I'm always open on Facebook at Marietta Hardwick. Y'all guys can find me there. And that's where I put more of like the personal stuff and whatnot. So yeah, find me either one.
We'll make sure we plug all your stuff in the show notes. So yeah, but thank you again so much for your time. And yeah, I'll see you hopefully here in a in the next month and a half when you come to Texas.
I'm really looking forward to it. I'm like,
yes, it's gonna come. February's gonna get here before we know it. So yeah.
Don't say that. I haven't even put up my Christmas tree.
Our Christmas tree's already up. I'm at this point. I'm trying to finish up the last bit of Christmas shopping. So.
Oh my God. Also, yes, not done yet.
Yeah.
With older kids, that's harder to do.
Yes, gift card them to death. That's my go-to.
It's the philosophy now. I didn't like take my money.
Amazon for my daughter is like get her Amazon one, a Target one, a Sephora one, and a Lululemon. Spend about $100 to $150 altogether, and I got a happy camper.
Really, I'm gonna have I have 4 that are here at all times for the holidays. So I'm really thinking what to give them all. I'm like, it's probably like a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and just call it a day.
My youngest, we're just going to get her because she's 7 going on 8, but she's into makeup and skincare. She's learning it all from her big sister. So we're going to get her starter kit. And then, I'm going to make it as simple as easy I can for me.
Hey, when I was younger, I wish that I would have had that advice. I mean, it wasn't like that in the 90s. My mom barely knew how to do makeup right. But I learned skincare very quickly. I worked for a plastic surgeon when I was 22.
Wow.
No, I haven't had any work done, but I can tell you right now, skincare is essential.
Yes.
At all times. I would rather do skincare all day than makeup.
I thank God he made me a guy for that reason.
That's probably what my husband says too, because no. It's not happening.
All right. Let me let you get out of here. Thank you so much again. Bye. That's it for this week's show. Again, thanks for tuning in. Remember to like, subscribe, and share with others. Leave those reviews and check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until then, see you next week.